This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. October 10th is World Mental Health Day, and this year we're saying thank you, therapists. BetterHelp therapists have helped over 5 million people worldwide on their mental health journeys. That's millions of stories, millions of journeys, and behind every one is a therapist who showed up, listened, and helped someone take a step forward. Moments in therapy, like the right question, a safe space to cry, or a small win, can change lives. This World Mental Health Day, BetterHelp is honoring those connections and the therapists who make them possible, while showing how easy it is to get guidance from a licensed therapist online with BetterHelp. With over 30,000 therapists, BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform, having served over 5 million people globally. And it works with an average rating of 4.9 out of 5 for a live session based on over 1.7 million client reviews. This World Mental Health Day, we're celebrating the therapists who've helped millions of people take a step forward. If you're ready to find the right therapist for you, BetterHelp can help you start that journey. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/PFF. That's betterhelp.com/PFF. Apologies to producer Quinn back there for the next game, but producer Quinn, if I have to go through a UCLA review, you have to go through this one. This is not as bad as UCLA game, but number 24, Virginia, very good team, Virginia, beating Louisville in a 30-27 thrilling game in overtime. Let's go over the highest grade players, starting off with the Virginia Cavaliers, starting off with Anthony Britton, the D tackle, 85.4, Devin Neal, 84.9, the safety, linebacker Cam Robinson, 81.5, Jason Prevard, the corner, 76.4. Christian Charles, the safety, 75.2. And Chandler Morris with a 59.6 grade in the win for Virginia. Louisville, highest grade player, was Chris Bell, the wide receiver, 81.9, a hot name in NFL draft circles right now. Trevante Sylvester, the tackle, 80.6. TJ Quinn, the linebacker, no relation to our producer Quinn, who went to Louisville, but still a 77.3 grade in this game. JoJo Evans Jr., the safety, 75.6. Antonio Watts, the other safety, 71.7. And Miller Moss, the quarterback, with a 62.7 grade in the loss for the Cardinals. Dalton, for you, what's the story of this game?
So, I think one of the things that stuck out to me in the preview was which quarterback is going to not wilt under pressure. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you Chandler Morris was great under pressure. He was 2 for 9 with like a 46 passing grade. But didn't turn the ball over, didn't sit here and blow the game, right? Miller Moss under pressure, especially in the second half, is what cost Louisville this game. And he doesn't have a lot of answers. He's not particularly mobile. He's not going to improvise a whole lot under pressure, okay? And in the first quarter, thought he was okay, but it really wilted in the second half. 31 passing grade under pressure from Miller Moss. 5 sacks he took. Virginia, when you talk about turning on the pass rush, all 5 of those sacks in the second half. Right, and I thought the right mix of blitz calls and standard rushes from Virginia's defense. I thought they called a really great game, and they played a really good game up front. 9 for 15, 81 yards. The pick 6 under pressure as he was being sacked. That is honestly just inexcusable.
Yes.
It's.
Did it get it negative too? Did you look?
It had to. I didn't even look. I don't even have to look. It had to have. You just cannot. It's as inexcusable a play, probably the worst play I saw anybody make yesterday. Honestly, you just cannot.
The Miller Moss, you almost never see that from him either.
And he doesn't do that, right? Generally, he's going to make better decisions than that.
Remember his when we interviewed him last year at USC, and I asked him, what was your favorite play of your career? And he said, a throw that I threw out of bounds.
Right.
It kept us on schedule.
That's one
of them that's like, dude, that's not you.
That is one where I know the heat's on, and I know you're getting hit throughout this second half. You can't. Yeah. It's on that. We've seen it before. It's on that, like, I don't want to say it, but a Will Levis level of, like, you cannot do that, right? So, I mean, that was a huge play, obviously, as he's being sacked. He was under pressure on a bootleg on 3rd and 2 in overtime inside the 5. That throw was a little low and away from Isaac Brown. He had a chance at it, but couldn't haul it in. And again, Virginia, 5 sacks all in the second half. Virginia turned up the heat in the second half of this game. I thought this game was going to come down to which quarterback was going to either wilt or thrive under pressure. Neither of them thrived necessarily, but when Miller Moss felt the heat in the second half, that's when this game really started to turn in Virginia's favor.
I know you haven't graded in a couple of years, but you still got it because it did get a negative too.
It's just you just can't. Yeah. I mean, it's just, especially spinning down and getting just take the sack and move on. You have to know, and like you mentioned, Miller's even told you have to know when to live to play the next down. That hurt him bad.
Yeah,
that was that's a play you cannot make.
Yeah,
if you're going to beat a ranked team, yes, Virginia, and obviously a good team, Virginia. That they've got a good football team, but those mistakes under pressure and the way Virginia's pass rush was getting after Louisville and a struggling Louisville offensive line, like you'd been talking about. That was a big deal in this game.
Absolutely, yeah, and that goes into my stat too. Virginia had 2 defensive touchdowns in this game. And Virginia's, a team that usually is relying on their offense. Remember last week they won in a shootout over Florida State in overtime. This week, their offense is not great. Negative 0.102 EPA per play, only 3.5 yards per play for Virginia in this game. But they won this game because of how opportunistic their defense was in this one. They forced 2 turnovers on Louisville and scored on both turnovers they forced in this game too. 61-yard fumble return by Donovan Platt, 47-yard pick six, like Dalton was mentioning before, by Cam Robinson in this game. Those 2 plays kept Virginia in this game and got them to overtime where the Cavaliers ended up winning. And like I said, last week, they won a thrilling overtime game over Florida State because of their offense. This week, they won a thrilling overtime game over Louisville because of their defense. So just a great job all around by Virginia, not being one-dimensional, not just being, okay, this is an offensive football team or a defensive football team. They've shown they could beat legitimate teams in the ACC. 2 teams that I had in my top 25 going into that week in Florida State and Louisville. They showed they could beat both of them using their offense and their defense too. Just a great job by Virginia's defense, because if you told me Virginia's offense would average 3.5 yards per play, I would say Louisville won this game in a landslide. And they did not, because their defense made some massive plays for them in this game.
Absolutely. And a guy I want to shout out to, I know the D-line was dominant, especially in the second half, but another guy I want to shout out, their middle linebacker, Cam Robinson, was all over the place, just flying all over. He had the pick six on that ball Miller Moss never should have thrown, but also 10 tackles, 4 stops, 2 pressures, 84.7 coverage grade, 66.9 run defense grade. His 81.5 grade that you saw in the top 5 there, the second highest grade of his career is 3 years at Virginia. So, I mean, there's been a lot of talk about all the transfer guys that have come into Virginia and made them better. But Cam Robinson, as basically a 3-year starter for them at linebacker, one of the best games he's played in his career, and catching that pick six, having the awareness that, okay, just play it out. If they're going to review it, they're going to review it. We're going to see how it goes, but house it to the end zone and see what happens. He got himself a touchdown in this game. Just, again, from Virginia's entire front seven. Just a spectacular effort.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to shout out the defensive line specifically in this game, because I mentioned before, Louisville's offensive line is vulnerable, and Virginia's D-line took advantage of it in this game. Only 100 rushing yards for Louisville, negative 0.344 EPA per run. Anthony Britton, the D-tackle, who's one of the highest graded players for Virginia in this game, he forced the fumble on Isaac Brown. That was returned for a touchdown. They also sacked Miller Moss 5 times and had a 36% pressure rate on him in this game. And one of those pressures, like you mentioned Dalton before, led to the pick six as well for Virginia. So the Virginia defensive line really led to the 2 defensive touchdowns they had in this game, and overall they dominated up front for the Cavaliers.
And I'm just going to throw something out here on the state real quick, on the state of Virginia and the ACC and what's going on here. Because you look, first of all, Virginia could screw around and make the ACC title game. Look at the rest of the NC State loss was out of conference, remember, because of all the loopholes and weirdness with that. They have a bye week, then they have Washington State. Okay, cool. North Carolina, at Cal, that's a tricky one. West Coast trip, good quarterback. Wake Forest, we've seen them. They're feisty, but Virginia's better than Wake Forest. At Duke, and I'll tell you why, that's a huge game in a second. And then, of course, Virginia Tech at the end. You get them at home. But Virginia's 3-0 with that schedule. Duke, we kind of forgot about them losing to Illinois and Tulane. They're 3-0 in the ACC. They've won 3 straight games in the ACC. Georgia Tech's 2-0, and we kind of like their schedule a little bit. There's going to be this. We thought it would be interesting, but it's with some different teams than we thought. This race for second place, and even first place in the ACC with the way Miami looks, but we thought this race for second in the ACC would be interesting, and it's with some completely different teams. Yeah. I mean, Duke, actually, I had second, but we'll see where that goes if Darian Mensah. I'm going to mention him later. But Virginia, Georgia Tech, Duke, we'll see who else gets back in that mix. But I'll tell you what, Virginia's schedule, I always hate to look ahead to the schedule and just make assumptions, but Well, they keep playing like this on both sides of the ball now. There's a road here. There's a road to at least second place in this conference.
Yeah, and how about the Cavaliers? They won 5 games last year, 3 games the year before, 3 games the year before that. They already have 5 wins this year. They're 5-1 right now. They're absolutely going to make a bowl game for the first time in Tony Elliott's tenure at Virginia, and it
without
could be
question.
possibly much more. They can make an ACC game, damn near, maybe even make a playoff this year. The way they're looking and the way that schedule looks too. I mean, they could be 11-1 going into the ACC game, and then we have an SMU situation like last year. Where it's like, hey, even if you lose to Miami.
I mean, what do we do? I mean, your one loss is a 4-point loss to NC State. Beat Florida State, beat Louisville, see where it goes from there, and then just see how well you play. But
could be very similar to SMU last year.
If
very similar.
This is a story. This is a huge story all of a sudden in the ACC. This ACC is getting turned upside down right now.
It absolutely is.